Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Bell. Today we're joined by Dr. Penny Christensen and Caitlin Maynard to talk about Barrow County's Technology Integration Group, our new Canvas LMS, and how we plan to approach AI in our classrooms. Thank y'all for coming on to the show. We're really excited to dive into these topics. Caitlin, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your education, how you started here in Barrow County and what you do?
Sure. So, hi everybody, I'm Caitlin Maynard, and I am a proud graduate of the Barrow County School System. So, back in 2005 is when I graduated from Winder, and I went off to the University of Georgia to major in music education, and then immediately came back. I was able to complete my student teaching at Russell, and then got my first job at Russell. I was there for 11 years teaching chorus and music and getting involved with building a drama club and getting our kids on stage and performing. But I knew there was also more out there for me. And so I've been interested in getting into leadership, but then really instructional technology was what was pulling me. And right around 2019 was when I started my instructional technology degree and graduated with that in December 2020, while we really needed to figure out technology in the classroom with the pandemic. And then TIG was formed shortly after, and so I just was like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to see this opportunity and see how I can better serve the entire district and not just my school.
Penny, will you go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Sure. I'm Penny Christensen. I have taught in several states, mostly middle grades, math and science. And I would say early in my career, content literacy was kind of the thread that brought everything together, that reading, writing, speaking, listening. But as I evolved, and I think I'm in my 26th year of education, I thought that technology was really the natural next step for instruction to take. How do you amplify the good things? How do you make transparent processes that might need upgrading or, improvement with education? I have an instructional technology degree that I also got during the pandemic. What were we thinking, right, Caitlin? I don't know. And I've been in ed tech since 2009. So I've been in Hall County and Gwinnett County in Georgia and Florida and Michigan prior to that. So I've been in a lot of different places, and the good news is teachers are awesome everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited to do a deep dive with this topic and get to know a little bit more about what you guys do here. So what is TIG and how did it come about?
Sure. So TIG stands for Technology Integration Group, but that's a mouthful. So is our title, Educational Technology Integration Specialist. It's a lot. So we just really tell people we're here to support you, to help the teachers use the technology in their classrooms, help our students become creators on their own, and really to expand their learning. How it came about was we just knew, especially with, we had the grant money, the CARES Act funds, and so we knew, especially with the rise of technology use in the classroom, we wanted to funnel it in the right direction of being effective and, with a purpose. We definitely didn't want for the Chromebooks or iPads or anything just to become a toy in the students' hands, but a tool that they really could use to, again, further their learning and making it a more enriching experience, and to really help the teachers, especially at that time as well. And since then, we have just seen ourselves being able to support teachers in so many different ways. I know that our focus today will be on Canvas, but it goes to how to use their Clear Touch panel in ways that they haven't thought of yet, how to just really check in with their students, and how to help, again, their students and their learning. And so really it's just about getting out there, making connections with the teachers, with the administrators, and with the students as well.
We've had technology in our classrooms. It started with projectors. We're going to dive a little bit into the evolution, if that's all right. Mm-hmm. So will you walk me through from, let's say 20 years ago to now, and how this technology has evolved and why it's so beneficial for our students and our teachers?
Right. I think early on, when you think of maybe how you went to school, maybe not you, Caitlin, but maybe people my generation, when we went to school, technology, there were very few things. Maybe they rolled in a huge TV on a cart. Maybe there was an overhead projector and your teacher had stains all the way down her wrist. But that was about really broadcasting information. And as technology has evolved, there's really two routes it's taken. First of all, how does it make the teacher job easier? Think email, right? Think productivity suite. And then secondly, how are students gaining from that? So it's about that teaching and learning amplification that we might have. So initially, a lot of the technology in the classroom was about how can I make my teacher voice louder and bring in more broadcast technology, but there wasn't a lot of interaction with students. I'd say probably around 2010 is when we started seeing a lot of things. I know that someone had mentioned the interactive clickers. Do you remember that? That was really one of the first attempts to have students interact and then teachers give feedback. So it really starts to support the learning cycle at that point. You saw a lot of programs move from being desktop programs to online where you could log in from anywhere. And you started to have a lot of our content in the cloud. The good thing about that is if we were teaching together and you moved into science from Chorus one year, I could copy a lot of the content I use to you and allow you to kind of, just be 5 minutes ahead of the kids, which when you start teaching, that's what you really are, just 5 minutes sometimes. So it can start to increase the baseline of what we're doing in our classrooms, and it can promote equity because we can copy that between our classrooms and really help people who are struggling. And those students can all have access to that quality content.
So what kind of technology were you guys using whenever you first started here in Barrow County?
Okay, so in 2010, I had a projector on a cart and a pull-down screen, which is really funny because one day it fell. As I was pulling it down, it fell off, and then my students and I had a funny little moment with it. I was like, oh no. But yeah, it was the rolling cart with a projector. Students, at that time too, our school district was working on really pushing the first wave of D2D, the direct to discovery that we partnered with Georgia Tech with, and so we were seeing iPads. We had our own Wi-Fi system at Russell, and so we were able to actually start connecting, and that was really the first time, because before then, we were hardwiring into the walls, just the teacher had the desktop. A laptop was something that you had, but you didn't really use in your classrooms, and the students definitely didn't. So that was, it started the first wave of iPad use. So getting students to make, iMovies and GarageBand files and tracks and stuff. So we're starting that little process. And then we started getting Chromebook carts. And that was, thinking about where we were to where we are now, I realized it was kind of limiting. You only got to have the Chromebook cart for a few days on a certain rotation. And so I think in a way it really made the teacher be very specific and intentional with their technology use, which is something that we still kind of harp on, not in a bad way, but just because now we're one-to-one and you have the Chromebooks every day, let's make sure that our use of the technology with our students is still productive and profitable for their learning.
So what kind of technology are we currently using in our classrooms here in Barrow County?
All right, so let's start with our hardware to start with. So all of our teachers have a laptop. They are issued this at the beginning of their tenure with us. And so instead of a desktop computer, they have their laptop. So it really provides mobility, and then just they can take it back and forth with them from home to school if they would choose. But again, it's just getting them up out of that desk and being able to circulate their room. They also have a clear touch panel. So this is a large display that this has become, the replacement of the projector. So they all have their own PC behind them, so the teachers can still keep their, more personal, private, sensitive information on their laptop, but they can come over to the Clear Touch panel and put their lesson plans or their presentations, the videos that they need to show the students. Again, all of our students have their Chromebooks, and then we also have audio enhancement, which is the microphone system that they have that they can wear. They also have a student microphone, or what I call the student microphone, but it's a handheld. Okay. So, imagine a student gets up at the front of the classroom to give a presentation, and maybe they're shy, maybe they're a little timid, and then you really can't hear them. We can coach them through using the microphone to be proud of their work and to really help project them. Again, through the system, there are four speakers in the room, so they'll really be amplified and they can be heard by everyone in the classroom. And currently, that's some of our newer technology that our teachers and our students can depend on having in their classrooms.
I will say what's very nice, starting this year, software-wise in Barrow County, is we've implemented the ClassLink dashboard. so that any of our users internally can navigate to ClassLink, and once they log in, it's a single sign-on. So whether you're putting in a request for a sub, whether you want to log into Microsoft or Canva, it's all right there for you. We can also add some specific links as needed. So it's a really great one-stop shop. I would think that the highlights on ClassLink are definitely Microsoft. We know that's a high productivity application in our district, but also Canva for education. It's a creation suite that you see teachers really embracing, and we can give templates out to students to create an infographic and turn it in, to make a GIF and turn it in, like a lot of creativity there. But especially, we're really focused right now on, that's how we coach folks to get into their Canvas learning management system, our teachers and our students.
From your observations, you've kind of seen it all from then to now. How would you say the students have taken it, comparing, with the projectors and overhead, but now to with that hands-on, like, interactive technology?
I think that I've seen creativity of teachers increase, because now they're seeing that they have these tools. Like I said, the touchscreen, clear touch. Some of our student devices are also touchscreen. So if they are able to use any like physical drag and drops, because there's one thing about just typing and moving a cursor, but actually having that physical motion can really help reinforce the skill and whatever they're working on. But I think too, just to plug another program, would be the student technology competition, because now we have, again, that access to technology, access to apps and programs on the regular. So now our students are taking it from their learning to what they can produce. And it is such a wonder to see, like, I made this. They show us when we judge, I made this through this program. And just to see the joy that they have and the interest, it's more than just a competition, or at least is what I see it. I see this as a path for those students, for careers and onward.
And Sarah, I would add to that, that's a huge commitment that Barrow County Schools has made to go one-to-one. And our technology department has really stepped up to meet that need, not necessarily with any more resources, but what would they already had, and that's really impressive. What that does for students is, where students used to have to come into school and power down, because so many, especially of our 612, have their own internet-enabled devices, they don't have to do that anymore. They can feel like they can be as creative in school as out of school. And we think that helps teachers, because during the pandemic especially, teachers felt like a lot of this was on them. How can I perform? How can I make the learning happen? But by outsourcing that to each student and allowing them to create as many different artifacts, I guess, as there are students, that student creativity engages them, and it takes a little bit of pressure off the teacher to differentiate everything for everyone every time. They can go back to really their source material and allow students to create.
You said one-to-one. Will you explain for viewers that might not know exactly what that is?
Sure. This year is the first year that we're starting the school year with one-to-one, meaning that at your child's school, they have a method where they will assign a Chromebook to your student. They will have specifications on what your student can and can't do. So check with your school, because they're really good at supporting that and monitoring how to help your student. But that is their Chromebook. And like Caitlin said, not too long ago, we used to have to say, hey, I've got the Chromebooks on Tuesday. I hope my lesson plans are on time so that I can do that cool lesson on Tuesday. And golly, if Monday was a day that we were out or had a pep rally, that lesson was kind of sunk. So for teachers and students, it's a way to be able to depend on access to that creation or that productivity or just maybe that connection.
Absolutely. All right, so how long does a student keep that device for whenever they do get that one-to-one Chromebook?
That's a good question. So at each school building, that media specialist, that principal decide when they hand that out to the students. And from then until they leave that school building, they have that Chromebook. So for instance, once I leave 5th grade and then go to Russell Middle, I'm going to get a new one when I show up in 6th grade at Russell. If I leave Russell in 8th grade, I would go ahead and give that back to them and expect a new one when I go to high school.
What is Canvas LMS and why did we choose it?
That's a good question. We keep saying LMS and we forget to say that means Learning Management System. I'm pretty guilty of that. We do purposefully say Canvas LMS because we have applications like Infinite Campus, Canva, and so many things have that similar sound that we try and say LMS when we talk about it. A learning management system differs from a productivity suite. We were used to maybe Google with Google Classroom, Microsoft with Teams, but a learning management system is really a new level of application. It's very deep, and that means it has a lot of benefits, but it has a lot of features. So we do have a little bit of a learning curve. I don't want anyone to think, why is this hard for me to learn? It's not, it's just a lot to learn. We have had some training throughout last year that we're going to continue into this year. We hope to get into PLCs, grade levels, department meetings, because we think we want to meet those teachers where they're creating content that they can give to students. The big idea of a learning management system is how can I start a course this year, maybe have very skinny modules, and then copy it to next year and have that same content, but then add to it. So no one's really expected to have 180 days of anything in an LMS right away. What you expect is you expect to start filling out your outline of what you want in an LMS so that students have access to this not only when they're in your class, but beyond the walls and beyond the hours of school. That's really the beauty. When a student can get back to what we did in class and have thoughts on it or submit things, maybe even when parents of students can look through that Parent Observer app and say, wow, all right, I see what Penny has to do tonight. Let's get down to the dining room table and let's sit and let's look through this. So we feel like we're really bringing in a lot of stakeholders. We're opening up the time and the space for people to be learning, not just when they're in any one class, but whenever they want.
Absolutely. So what has the startup process been like for all of this?
So for a little background, we actually had some advisory groups come in. We had a teacher level advisory and then a district level advisory because, we wanted to make sure that this wasn't just our decision, that we had input and different voices from different levels to see what would be best for Barrow. So we had 3 different products, companies that we were looking at, and we did a thorough review of what they offered in terms of features, security. We pride ourselves on how we are making student data privacy a goal, like a number 1 for us, because just because technology is out there, it's not all good. And so we want to make sure that our students are protected. So we looked through all of their different proposals. We had their vendor representatives come out and actually talk with us. And then through their votes, we went forward with Canvas. So we have committed to a 6-year contract. So this is technically year 2. So that always puts our teachers at ease as well. They're like, okay, this isn't something that you're going to take away next year. We're committed for the long haul. And so the startup after that, we first started with 6 through 12 with just getting interested teachers. You could opt in as you were ready to take on this. Our district has gone through a few changes lately, just moving from Google to Microsoft as our productivity suite. And so our teachers were using Classroom, and then they were using Teams. So we understand the fatigue that they may be experiencing of like, okay, here's one more thing. Yeah. But that's why we've been super supportive, and we will come out and we will show you and we will help you every step of the way, because we know in the long run, this is gonna be so beneficial for them, our families, and our students. So we're willing to put forth all of the extra effort needed. But we started with about 50 to 100 teachers in our first year, in last school year, using Canvas. Now it's so funny. I've had some testimonials on why wasn't I using this last year? This is so much better. I love this so much. My kids it's easy for my kids to understand. That's not to say that there are also, like Penny said, some learning curves that we've just got to just figure out. And we appreciate, I'll say this right now on record, we appreciate everyone who has been jumping into Canvas and helping us figure out, like, this is what's happening in my classroom, this is what's happening on my screen, so that we can give them the support. And our district has also really understood the importance of support. And so we have provided the 24-hour access, 24/7 access to the Canvas chat line, basically. So teachers, administrators can go in and ask the questions that they need, because they understand that we're also people. And, a teacher, I did it myself. I'm doing my lesson plans at Sunday night at 11:30 p.m., and maybe something's not working the way I want it to. They could email us, but we may be asleep. So they can check out the Canvas chat line and get somebody who is dedicated. They are literally sitting on the end of their computer waiting for questions to come in. And so that's really part of what all we've been up to. We have pushed it out 6 through 12 this school year. The expectation is that they are using Canvas with their students. So we expect a lot of more questions, but then also a lot more fruit on the other side of just how they're working with Canvas with their classes.
So how would you say that Canvas is providing our students with new opportunities to learn?
Maybe like they've experienced in the past, they can submit some work to a teacher and a teacher can give feedback. What I'll say about Canvas, their speed grader, is it has really rich feedback that we can do videos, we can annotate, we can do audio files, we can use rubrics, like we can use a lot of feedback that doesn't cost the teacher extra time. Now, maybe we don't want to advertise that. Maybe we want our teachers to look like all-stars, but it's really easy to give rich feedback. It's also something that the student can respond to. So that cycle of teaching and learning is not only enriched, but it can keep going. And that's one of the benefits of a really robust learning management system, that it has deep features that allow you to submit in multiple ways, to give feedback in multiple ways, and to resubmit and carry this on. It also brings in a lot of different experiences through what's called learning tool interoperability. So we had people who were really into Edpuzzle, and they're like, well, I don't want to not use Edpuzzle. We worked with engineering to make sure Edpuzzle was in Canvas LMS. Canva is in there. You can use your Office 365 existing documents in Canvas LMS. So there's a lot of things you can bring together to some of that core content that we might be bringing in from Georgia Virtual Learning, where you can really make a robust course. And the good news is, if you're not the person who's the expert at this, go down your hall and find the person who is, because your students and their parents probably are only in one science class. They're not going to know if my neighbor is the one that's really creating this awesome content. She can just share it to me. And I think that's what's nice, is we're really setting that floor. What is the baseline for what we want to offer our students, their families, and then the sky is the limit.
And I know that we've spent most of our time talking about 612, but elementary is coming. We're going to start with a wave of early adopters this school year, and we know that we've got our 2 digital learning days, one in November and one in February. So the goal is to get some elementary teachers who are really excited and hyped to try this out with their students on those 2 days, and then provide training for our elementary teachers in the spring. So they'll be ready to go this time next year.
So you mentioned the Parent Observer app. How can parents access that, and what is it?
That's a good question. You can go on whatever phone you have, Apple, Android, and you can find Canvas Parent app and download it. We have the directions on how to sync up with your students on the Barrow County website. What you can expect when you get in there is you can see the parent view of things that are due, content that they have to look at. If you have more than one student right now in 612, but eventually in K-12, you can even toggle between those 2 students to see, okay, my child A has these things going on in Canvas, child B has these, and there's even a great calendar that as a parent, I can see everything and when it's due.
And just real fast to put in a little testimonial. So my son is in 6th grade, and so I'm seeing all of these due dates pop up, and I'm like, ooh, your teacher's about to give you some things in Canvas, which is great because it gets that connection back to the home. You know, we're thinking way, way back when, no computers or anything, you were dependent on a syllabus or a handout, and so now it's just that easy access to making sure that we're on top of what our students are doing. Because one thing that we never want is for a student to fall behind. And so if this is another way for those parents and those family members to, or their guardians, to stay connected and to help, again, with the teacher, because we're all on the same team. And so this is a way to really enforce that and stabilize it. And then I have another situation where a friend of mine, her son needs a little extra support, and so she has really valued being able to see what's due, and then from the parent view, see the resources that the teacher has provided. Because again, many of our parents, they don't know how to solve quadratic equations or anything like that. So just for them to be able to go back and look at the content and just talk with their students about what they're doing in class, I think that's another just huge point of just keeping those conversations going on at home.
It's a real helpmate. If I know that my student got a 89 on quadratic equations, I don't know what that means.
Right.
And you're never going to see like a total grade in Canvas LMS. Canvas LMS is about the content, that interaction between the teacher, the student, and that parent support. You're going to go to Infinite Campus, that parent portal, for those official grades.
Okay.
But that's really where you're going to go to see what's happening with your student during the day.
That's really exciting. So, Caitlin, let me ask you, what is your thoughts on AI in our classrooms?
So I think that AI is going to be big. It's going to be something that our teachers can use to help cut down all of the extra time that they spend doing like little tasks. Now, of course, as a former teacher, those little tasks, they're important. You know, they're things that I have to do. I need to look at this data to figure out my small groups, or I need to come up with this lesson plan, or, you know, any of those. They're very important. But if we could use AI to help our teachers get some of that time back, like Penny was talking about earlier, I really do think that it will help our teachers with their well-being and being able to not have to worry so much on the little minutia over here. I can use that time either for myself or to give back to my students, because if I'm not so busy working on this little bitty task, I can take that time and pour it back into my students. And so we're really excited. We know that there are a lot of different options out there, and it can be scary. Like, we'll be honest about that too, just what AI can turn around, and we've all heard the negatives of it. But that's why our district has also been very particular about getting training available to our teachers. We've had different experts, if you will, come and talk to our leaders, and we're working on that game plan of what are we going to allow at this time. You know, just because it's all available all the time, we're still, again, protecting our teachers, protecting our district, protecting our students.
What kind of tips do you have for students, families, parents, anybody that might be using AI?
I would say, what was the first fear that everyone had with AI, right? That, oh no, kids are going to cheat and they're never going to write a history essay again. I would say, just like you did, Caitlin, let's set the intention. Maybe we can harness that AI to either do some of that minutia that you mentioned. How can it be like, you know, how can I be its taskmaster and tell it what to do? Or how can you engage that in creativity? How could that be something where it amplifies that creative idea that you have? You don't necessarily want to expose everyone to everything at once. So if I'm a parent in a household, and I say, you know, look at this one tool. I'd like you to use this with math, or I'd like to use this with you to create something. I think going through that intentionally with a child helps you articulate what your intentions and expectations are for your student. And Caitlin's right, our district is trying to slow walk that to make sure that we're saying that too. What are we intentionally valuing? What do we not expect you to do with it? And what options do you have to use AI?
Absolutely. I think at the end of the day, we really want to get our students excited to learn and use this
Right.
technology as a tool, like
Yes.
you've been talking about.
Yes.
So, but I want to thank you both for coming on to the show. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and some of this upcoming new technology in Barrow County. If you have any questions, be sure to stop by our socials and our district website. And remember, the learning journey never stops. It continues beyond the bell.